that goes back to what I was saying about the brain. What's happening in the brain, that's the science
Yeah.
behind it, why it's powerful. That thing that you're fearful of doing, the more you see yourself doing it, the more
Mm-hmm.
detail, the more specific, the easier it's going to be for you. So, welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl. No. Welcome to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. We're really excited to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is the power of visualization. I have to say that word really slow, by the way, in case you didn't notice.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. This episode is for the mom trying to rediscover herself, or maybe the woman pivoting careers, or maybe the woman who is healing from something, because all type of things that we heal from over time, right? Or maybe the woman who feels like maybe they're just a little behind. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to be 50 and I just feel like I'm supposed to be somewhere else.
How are you 50 when I'm still holding at 32?
Okay, well,
I don't know. That math ain't
like-
mathing.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
just
sure
I'm
the
rounding
only-
up. It's coming. It's close. But at the end of the day, I believe in the power of visualization. So let's get to it. And I'm excited to talk about it because I know that you ladies do too. I just curious to see how we kind of navigate the whole thing differently. So let's start off with some quick questions. And I know that you did not get to see my notes because I sent them so late. So that was all planned. So I'm going to catch these ladies off guard for once and for all. So when you think about when you were a little girl, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I always thought I didn't have a great imagination as a kid. But I did think about my life when I was an adult. So tell me a little bit about, what did you guys think about? How did you imagine your life when you were a little girl? Or did you?
I'm going to take one from the Corlin playbook. And when I was young, I wanted to be a businesswoman. Like I always thought of myself as like high heels and a briefcase and traveling around and all of that. I did think about being a mom, but I never, ever thought it would be girls. I thought I would have all boys. I always would consider myself like a boy mom. But
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, that backfired on you.
Totally. Yeah, I know. I was like, I only produce women.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've talked about this before. We all kind of wanted to be a teacher. Well, I think me and you, Jessica, both said that we wanted to be teachers. And that was also in my brain. But definitely when I was young and imagining my life, it was like, whatever, businesswoman Barbie.
Yeah. I love that. Corlin, what did you think about? And maybe it wasn't necessarily your career. I don't know. When you were a kid, what did you imagine? What did your imagination say when you think about being an adult?
Yeah, very similar. I always pictured myself working. So I have friends that had always pictured themselves as a married wife and a mom. And I was always, if I envisioned myself in the future, it was always around some sort of job. I know I kind of shared on a past episode that I had an idea that I wanted to be, well, one, everybody wants to be a marine biologist when they're little at some point. Somebody wants to save the whales. Nobody knows what that person does in real life. I'm sure there's 7 of them meandering the world in a submarine somewhere. I did not make it that far in that career. And then switch tones to be wanting to be a doctor or a lawyer, because those are the things that I had learned somehow that made lots of money, which just seems so crazy as a child just to be so fixated. But I think I grew up not having a lot of money, so I
I was
felt
going to
like
say
that
it
was
comes from that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, and I think my desire to work was I saw my mom working, and I saw what that looked like. But my grandma didn't work. My grandma was a stay-at-home mom and raised 6 kids. So I did have women in my life that were both, but I just had always went the career. I knew I wanted to go to college. Like that was an absolute, that was just an obvious. Like after I got done with college or high school, I would go to college and then I would have a career.
Yeah.
But I also played sports as a young kid and through a little bit
Yeah.
into college, and so that was always a priority too, was just very much being an athlete in some capacity.
Yeah.
Did you guys
Well-
have people that were like planning out their weddings and things, like where they were like, I'm gonna have this many kids and this is what my wedding's gonna
Yeah,
be,
we
and
did
I'm
that
gonna
by
have
playing. Did you guys ever play MASH?
I didn't
Was
know
that
the name
card
of
was
it.
the thing? Yeah.
Yes.
You had like mansion, apartment, shack, house, and then the
Yes.
4 boys that you loved plus
Yeah.
like
Yes.
Joe McIntyre.
Absolutely. Right. Or Donnie Wahlberg for me.
Yeah.
So when I think about, imagining when I was a kid, well, first of all, as you all know, things were it was very dysfunctional. So I used to just imagine being in a house where I'm like, and no one's allowed to drink or do drugs in this house. When I become an adult, we're not going to do that. So it was stuff like that. But I did want to be a teacher. And I do remember, my mom tells this story all the time where I would take all of my dolls and like line them up in my room and like put pens and papers in front of them. So I really got into the whole like visualization as
Yeah.
a little
Oh,
girl.
yeah.
Like I went overboard and I had a chalkboard and I did the whole thing and I like had whole conversations and all of that. So I think that's kind of where it started. Corlin, you want to say something?
I just was
You want to
wondering
make
how
fun of
you
me?
how
You want to judge me?
how were those dolls' test scores? What was the effectiveness of your lessons? That's what I was wondering.
Boy, it was really good. And I had one of those long
It was
rulers,
really
by the way, too.
They were good. They're passing.
I had one of those those long rulers that you just get smacked in the hand. Well, you went to Catholic school? They did
I
that
went
in
to Catholic
school.
I
school.
never got hit in school.
I was thrown
Well-
against a locker a couple times by a nun. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that was kind of part of it. So that was my kind of teaching. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of where it started, right? And I want to kind of just talk about what that means today and how we can really just make this where it's more intentional and the outcomes of our career, our family, our lives, it's not accidental, right? So when you realize that you actually have control of these things and that visualization is real and it is powerful. So when we think about the definition, like if you guys just had to define it, I'm not talking about like textbook, like what do you think when you hear that word?
I think manifestation. I just, like thinking it out into the universe. Like I'm gonna visualize this thing and I'm gonna make it happen with my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know that word. I don't know why it weirds me out, like manifestation. I don't know why. I like visualization better. But I guess it's the same thing, right?
Manifestation to me sounds a little bit more, there's an active,
Okay.
like you're willing something into being, versus visualization is to me is just seeing where you want to be, and manifesting it means, to me, it brings about an action piece. I don't know. When you talk about definition, I remember a quote of some sort, but it was something along the lines of like everyone lands someplace. Few people land someplace on purpose.
I
And
like
it's this whole idea of visualizing, not just the sake of daydreaming, but there's an intentionality behind it where you're thinking of, I'm at point A, I want to be at point B. One, thinking of what point B looks like, but then to use your words, reverse engineering, what is it going to take for me to get to point B from point A where I'm standing? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I know that one of the things that I learned is that your brain activates many of the same neural pathways when you're imagining an experience as when you actually live that experience, right? And so I think that's kind of like the science behind it all. It's really just that simple. So, you know, if your brain has practiced it, then your fear, it's like decreases when it's time to actually do it, when it's now you're ready. And I remember, I can think of just so many times over the years, and this is why I believe in it so much, because I feel like my entire life, even going back to a kid, even though I didn't end up being a teacher in the formal way of teaching, but I would definitely say that one of my gifts is teaching. But I remember one particular time where I had just moved to Atlanta and I've been working for only a month for this company, got laid off. And I'm thinking to myself, the first thing I said, I remember them saying, you know, as time goes on, open roles, you know, you can apply, and you know, sometimes they'll bring people back. And I remember thinking to myself, I was already, you know, lucky enough to get in this company, not having any automotive industry background. And all of these people got laid off. There was like 75 people that got laid off. And they have so much experience. Why would they ever call me back? And then I remember just stopping myself in my tracks and like having a whole conversation like, that's stinking thinking, don't think that way. And I remember visualizing having that call, getting a call back, so much so going back to work. I even thought about the outfit I would wear and where I would park. I always used to try to find parking close to the door because I had high heels on and I would never get parking close to the door. And I was imagining myself going in the parking garage and I'm like, and I'm going to park right, the parking spots right in front of the door. And I remember thinking about this over and over again. And do you know that I don't remember if I wore the outfit that I was thinking about, but I did get called back despite not knowing anyone and not having that background and experience in automotive. And it freaked me out when I got to the garage. And I remember thinking of this over and over again. And the closer I got to the door, I'm like, what are the odds? What are the odds? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that parking is going to be there. And I remember being so excited. And sure enough, that parking was there. And it was just a reminder of how powerful this is. Can you guys think of a story or a time that you were just set on visualizing something and it happened and there you were just as you imagined it?
I feel like that's happened a few times, honestly, but like, and it's been weird, right? Isn't that a weird feeling?
It does, because then you almost feel like, am I psychic? How did I do this?
Outer body
Exactly.
experience?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
And it's almost it's like a combo of like a deja vu.
Yeah.
And then like you just said, like you think manifestation is a weird word, but like it's like, did I make this happen? What did I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for the most part for me, and I honestly, I attribute this a little bit more to, and this is kind of a new take on this concept, but I attributed it a little bit more to kind of preparation and practice and things like that, because, you know, I will have situations, and I've had many of these situations where I know I have to go into a certain meeting or a certain whatever situation, and I need to really focus on how I'm going to feel, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to act, how I'm going to hold my arms, you know, and I practice. And I have found myself, just noticed it lately, how much I talk to myself in the car because I have to drive a lot. And so I'm just sitting there practicing how I'm going to approach these people, how I'm going to approach the situation. And then when I'm doing it, it's like things just absolutely, they fall into place.
Yeah.
And I think it is a combo of that. It's a combo of practicing. It's a combo of preparing yourself. But then it is the visualization aspect is in there too, because you're sitting there thinking very specifically, this is how I want to feel when I enter the room. Here's how I want them to look and feel. Here's how I want to make sure I present myself. So, I mean, without getting into a super specific story, I think it happens all the time. And I think the preparation portion of it is huge. The only other one I wanted to, as you were talking, I thought about this. I used to coach a program for girls who were between third and sixth grade. And we did a visualization
exercise
practice. And one of the things that we did and had all the girls close their eyes and get comfortable. And I went through a whole lesson, but we talked about feeling your star power. But part of the exercise was think about how you feel when the sun is shining on you. How do you feel right now? You're outside and you're laying in the grass and the sun's shining on you. The clouds are floating above you. How do you feel right now? Think about how you feel right now. So it was very much like that imagination of putting yourself in that spot of, this is how I'm going to feel, so that, you know, when the exercise was done, okay, now do you know how you feel when you release your star power? So anyway, that got me thinking about that a little bit too.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying about the brain. Core, what do you got?
You know, I'm going to go the opposite direction of visualization. So I remember when you said we're going to talk about visualization, my head went to this story. I've talked about, I have a little bit of a heart condition. And so at some point in the last, this is probably 10 years ago now, maybe even 15, but I had to go get an MRI. And for those of you who have you guys ever had an MRI before?
I haven't.
Closed MRI. I'm walking back and I really didn't know exactly what this was. I know that it's a scan. I've heard some people are uncomfortable with it, but I really didn't know what I was jumping into. And I'm walking back with the nurse into the exam room and she asked me if I get claustrophobic. And I said, a little bit, which I do, but I wasn't going to make it a big deal. And so we go into the room and here is this tube. It looks like a giant donut with a hole in the middle that's a person-sized hole, right? And so she pushes a button and out comes a table that I'm supposed to lie on. And I lie on this table. They put a hard foam board over me with a bunch of wires on it that's connected to me, and they needed to take pictures of my heart. I'm like, well, how long is this going to take? And she's like, well, about half hour, 45 minutes. And so head first, she pushes a button and like pushes me into this giant tube. Dark, it's cold, and there's no end in the end. Like you're literally in this tube and I'm feeling like I can't get out of this thing. And all of a sudden I can just feel my heart just like jumping out of my chest. And of course I'm sitting there and the lady, I'm sure she's really reading all my vitals. Corlin, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. And she's like, okay, I'm going to need you to breathe a little bit. Like I'm sure my heart is just like whoosh, like through the roof.
Yeah.
Anyways, the worst thing happens. There's a breeze and a piece of my hair hits me in the nose and it tickles my face. And I am like, oh my gosh, I'm like trying to blow my breath up and trying to breathe it away. And all of a sudden I'm like, I just have to itch my face. And I go to like lift my hands up to itch my nose and I can't get my hands on. And I just felt exactly how tight I was. And I went in there, I opened up my eyes. The top of the thing is in like 1 inch from my face. It's just like, I'm like, okay, I've already been in here for 15 minutes or so. If I go out, I have to come back in. So I need to figure this out. So anyways, I
can just imagine her visualizing her.
Yeah,
I totally.
I'm just trying to figure this out.
And your little arms, like
and
I
you're
can't
giving
reach
yourself
it.
a little pep talk, like you're an adult, you can do this. Like I can do, and I literally shut my eyes and took a deep breath. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm riding a bike. I'm at the ocean. I can smell the salt. I can like feel, and I've just literally walked through this really hard thing by just shutting my eyes and just visualizing me in another place until we were done. I got out of this thing. The nurse looks at me and she's like, how are you feeling? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I go back to the changing room. I am hives from my chin to like just splotchy red, just uncomfortable. But it was that process of visualizing me someplace else to get me through that time that was just extremely uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I love that story, Cor, because you're right. It's still visualization, but you used it in a different way than I was talking about. I'm talking about, but it is still important, which is leading me to my next question. You just jumped ahead pretty good for not reading my notes. And that is why? Like, why is this important? Like, why are we even talking about this? And I feel like from day one, I don't care what stage you are in life, right? I use examples from when I was a kid of things that I imagined, how I imagined my house to be and how I imagined it to, like silly things. Like I'm like, even though I grew up in a very clean, organized home, it made me feel good. And I would imagine myself in my own home, and it was clean and it was, cozy, and that's how it is. And so I think that the why behind this and why this was important to me is that there's so many people in different stages of life, and it is a tool that if you have not really found the power in this, I really would encourage our listeners to really find and get a good understanding and tap into it, because it's powerful. And I didn't think about it, but I have used it for situations that I've been in that have been scary situations, or situations where I've been nervous, and the imagination is on the other side. And for you, it was going to the beach. And so in some cases for me, it's being in that job. And even what I'm doing now, I imagine myself being on an airplane, having conversations with people, going into dealerships and with my blazers and Jordans on, like all of those things. And even, I started traveling a couple of weeks ago, and there were those moments where I was walking in, and I remember, and it feels really good and powerful when I remember those moments, and now I'm actually in them just as if I imagined them. So I'm like, you realize that you do have power. Like, we have superpowers that we forget about, and visualization is certainly one of those. Corlin, because I know that you've read a book on just about anything. What do you got?
And who's the author? Let's
Right.
throw back to the other episode.
What's funny is I actually, when we were talking about this, I was like, there is a book, and it actually is called Visioneering. Have you heard of this book before? It's by Andy Stanley. The book itself is kind of has a Christian tone to it, or it does have a Christian tone to it. Okay. But the concept is it takes vision casting and engineering, and it's this whole idea of what we're talking about here is that there is a process to visioneering, and you can do it in a business sense to really find what your calling is. And part of the thing, I'll give you a quote, something that he says that I thought that really that resonated with me is that he said that the value of a vision is not in its maintenance, but it's in its movement. And so if you want to, I mean, you can maintain a vision, right? You can think about it, and until you create movement around your vision, it just stays put. So it's that vision mixed with engineering. There's a thinking a part of it, and then there's a doing part of it, and like putting it together, which really resonates. The book Visioneering. There you go.
See, I just knew you actually had book.
If the title of our podcast is also kind of the title of the book, I feel like it's applicable.
Okay.
But the thing I would bring up too is that I think that a lot of times you can think yourself through doing, I kind of lean into this, like this thing that you're nervous about, thing that you have fear about. But I kind of like what Jamie was talking about is I've used vision casting when I have to do a big talk. And I literally am standing in my living room. Like when I did that TED Talk a couple years ago, in preparation for that, I'm standing in my living room rehearsing what I'm going to say. But in my head, I am picturing a room full of people.
Not naked.
Not naked. I just think that is weird. I've never done that before.
but you've heard that, right?
Yes. But to Jamie's point, I practice. Okay, how am I going to move? What are my hands doing? I'm not flailing my arms around. I'm making contact with the refrigerator, then the coffee pot, then the closet. Moving my eyes, like just so all of those mannerisms and all that visualization and all the things that we do to prep. And then when I showed up to that event, and I kid you not, I was standing behind the curtain. And when you're going to do a big talk, like you get pre-talk jitters. Like I always felt the same way. Like I have like a little, and I think I practiced so much that I was waiting for that to come, and it never did. And when I got out on that stage, it was the same thing. It was just like I talked to the refrigerator, talked to the coffee pot, talked to the closet, and it was just
everyone in the audience were appliances.
Yeah. And it is remarkable how much being able to visualize those things take the fear, the anxiety, the unknown out of those big moments in our life that we have to go out and perform for. when you start like thinking about how it's all going to play out. And
Yeah. Well, I think that some people, it just depends on what works best for you. I know that oftentimes people will start with their goal and then they'll start, okay, here's my goal. And then I'm going to start thinking about what that looks like. For me, I always start with my vision. And sometimes the vision sets up the goals, if that makes sense. So I just think about, even now when I talk about retirement and I think about what that looks like, I walk on that beach every morning. I kid you not. And I know you said that the book kind of had a faith tone and I don't know, I believe that my power is because I pair my faith with my visualization. And I just start with that walk on the beach. And then trust me, every time I walk on the beach, I'm asking, Lord, I know I can't walk on that beach without you. So I am setting up my prayers based upon that vision. And then once I got that vision, then I'm like, okay, I'm the more detail, the better. That's another thing too. I don't know if you guys use like the more detail around. You talked about what do you smell? What do you see? How do you feel? And the more you can work around that. And then I think the next step to where the power is we talk about this a lot, is that journaling. Like once you got that vision and you got that detail, I write it down. And then I start thinking about, okay, I got the vision. I know what it tastes like. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. How do I get there from right here? And I think sometimes people stop, right? Like they just get stuck. Why? Why do you guys think they just get stuck right there? Because the vision is too big?
Well, I think having the vision makes you be very specific.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that if you're too vague, you can get stuck there.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Because like you said, you're thinking about walking on the beach. Okay, when you're very specific and you're thinking to yourself or you're imagining, what does the sand feel like in between my toes?
Yeah.
What does it sound like? What does it smell like? How does the sun feel? That's real specific. If you're envisioning that versus, let's say you're envisioning just looking at yourself walking down, looking at an image of yourself walking on the beach, completely different, maybe a bit too vague.
Yeah.
And maybe you get stuck there because it is too vague and now you don't quite know how to put it into action.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And you just reminded me, when I used to be really big and I imagined myself smaller, I thought to myself, it has to feel different walking through the world as a smaller person. No, I'm serious. I used to think about this. Like walking through the world in this body. Now, I've been fat since I was
what did you
second, third
think
grade.
about, or how did you think that it would be different?
I thought people would see me different. People would act differently. People would be different. I would see things different. I would feel different. And then, of course, I imagined I would actually be able to shop and it wouldn't be so hard to, I would see things that I like and I could just buy them because my size would be there and all of these things. And I don't know when it hit me, probably at 130 pounds, it hit me. All those things that I used to think about, and I was so right. It is so different walking through this world as a fat person versus not. It just is. Like I see things differently. I smell things differently. I don't smell the French fries as much, but it's just it's just different. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I have accomplished with visualization. And I can honestly say, I don't think that I would have accomplished it without it. I really don't. And that's how obsessed I was with seeing myself and how it would feel. I didn't know what it felt like. I used to say, I have no idea what it feels like not living in a fat body because it was just that, as an adult, as a teenager, didn't know what it felt like, but I knew it must have felt good. You guys made it look like it felt good. So I knew, I'm like, I know it has to feel good. And so that would be the one thing that I would say is my biggest accomplishment using visualization.
Yeah. I wonder too, like I looked into, I mean, obviously today I knew we were going to talk about this. I started looking into a few reasons why does it work? You know, because again, I was, and this might be my takeaway, but again, I kept kind of equating it a little bit more to manifestation. Like I'm manifesting this, I'm manifesting my success, whatever. But I think one, like we talked about being really specific with what you're visualizing, but I think it reduces stress and I think it builds confidence. I think it does both of those things. Because if you're worried about something and you start visualizing the outcome that you really want, okay, that's got to reduce some of your stress, right?
Right.
And if you take the time to really think through your desired outcome and you imagine yourself in that desired outcome, that's got to boost your confidence. I mean, I feel like that's just the natural next couple things that are the reasons why you should do it. And it's like we talked about, I think it was when we talked about journaling, and everyone can do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You don't have to have a skill. Literally, you just think.
Yep. No, I love
Do
that.
you guys ever use visualization to plan out all the things? A good example of this, I was going to have a hard conversation with my brother, and we were kind of fighting over something. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to be honest with him. And so I had planned out every single thing that he could possibly say and have an answer for that. And so, my brother and I are very close in age. And so when we argue, it's just really tense. And I was trying to come at this conversation in a very loving way. And I called him up and I'm like, we got to talk about this situation. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, can you do me this favor? And I'm preparing for him to give me 9 excuses on why he couldn't do this. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. And I just sat there. I'm like, what? And so it was almost that, I don't know if just that my over planning had just set this into motion or whatever it was, but it was just, I had practiced so many things and like, okay, I'm going to say this and he's going to say this and I'm going to say this and he's going to say this. And it's going to be this whole conversation. Literally, I had blocked out a half an hour and emotional time after I got off this phone call, and I had called him. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I can do that. I'm like,
so I think that was a lesson, Core, because that was, I don't know if that was the power of visualization, because you want to tend to think of the best case scenario. I think that was,
when you're dealing with family, things can escalate quickly, you know.
But I think this was
personalities and
I think this was visualization playing a good trick on you. That's what I think.
Yeah,
that's what that sounds like.
But it's like you almost like you have an anti, like it's like an anti-help, right? You just like you downward spiral into all the negative things that you can have. And like, so like I guess it's visualization that it's maybe not a healthy way. Like just the opposite.
I'm talking through that.
If you think of every
there is
bad
an anti.
thing.
Right. No, that's Corlin overly planning. No. But so in that same scenario, what I would encourage you to do is visualize your best case scenario, right? Even though it's maybe not likely, and even though,
like, you mean like what happened?
Exactly. And think about it and say, you know what? This is so crazy that I think that I can imagine it, and imagine the look on his face, imagine all of these things, because I have done that too, where I'm like, there is no way that this can happen. But I'm like, no, I'm going to think of it. I'm going to just be positive and I'm going to think about it. And if the deeper I go down that road are the times that it has happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and it was just, I just believed in that moment and just wrapped my head around all these details. So that's what I would say. My visualization, I told you I had to say it slowly. Visualization takeaway is write it down and start with the vision and in more detail. So that's my takeaway. And I really hope that there's 2 people that I hope that are listening today. And that is the person that has never tried this, that has been like, that's just stupid. I don't do that. Just try it, right? Just try it. And then the person who has maybe forgotten that they had the power, and for whatever reason, they haven't put it into practice lately. Just light that flame again and start visualizing those things and write it down and journal it and smell it and taste it and all of those things. And I promise you, I think that there's just so much power in it. I've lived it for so many years. I believe in it. And I would just encourage you to get back at it. What do you got?
I might hijack this into a must or goodbye, because I did have one other thing I wanted to say. You know, the must or goodbye is like when you say goodbye, but then you just keep talking. Like
Right.
Jessica's trying to wrap it up, but I have another point.
Trying to go. I'm like,
And I'll make it quick, but it is, I feel like, as we all know, we all have kids, and this visualization is key when we're trying to get our children out of a stink hole, right? And I think of this just happened like a week ago, that my son had a basketball game that was on the docket, and he was feeling a little intimidated about wanting to go. That he was like, well, I don't know who else is going to be there, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to go. And I just asked him, I'm like, well, let's think about this. Like, if you go, like who, like if your best friend isn't there, what will you do? Well, I'll have to talk to these 3 kids. Okay, then what will happen if that'll happen? You know, and he just walked him down this whole path, and and we ended up saying, I'm like, so do you want to go? Yeah, I'll go.
Right.
And so it was just like helping our kids walk through this path when they're scared to do something, or intimidated by something, or don't want to hop in because they're nervous because it's new, just like everything is when you're an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Everything's new, you know. So I think all the things that we can apply to ourselves in our own visualization, we can also take as good lessons to help our kids step into this. And you're never too young.
But that goes back to what I was saying about the brain. What's happening in the brain, that's the science behind it, why it's important, why it's powerful. So it's like that thing that you're fearful of doing, the more you see yourself doing it, the more detail, like you said, the more specific, as Jamie mentioned, the easier it's going to be for you. So this was a good reminder of the power of visualization. And remember, if you want to listen in, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find Lead Like a Girl Lab, or on YouTube, Lead Like a Girl Lab. Subscribe, and on all social media, follow us. And thanks again for joining us. And we want to hear, what do you want us to talk about? We're going to have, I thought of this today, we're going to have an episode where if I can't get any young ladies, I'm going to drag all of my nieces on an episode. I'm putting them on notice right now. If you are one of my nieces, we're going to get you on here, and we're going to have a live mentoring conversation where they're going to get to ask the 3 of us anything they want, and we have to honestly answer and give them advice. So more to come on that. Exactly. I just put them on notice too, because they didn't know about it at all. So stay tuned for that episode. And thanks again. Lead Like a Girl.
Bye.